Chairs No Waiting, episode number 792, The Horse Trader. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and check out the Mayberry orange and blue t-shirt and hat or cap combo. There's several other colors as well. Go and check those out. And while you're there, you might want to check out the beaded bracelet that's made in orange and blue and gold. It's a little bracelet that you can wear around. It's a pretty fun little thing to have. Or you might want to get you a Mayberry coaster. There's a single one and there's a set of 4 that you can get. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners like you. The executive producer of episode number 792 is Eric Lowry. Eric Lowry, who worked so hard to bring off the Mayberry Comes to Scottsburg that happened this past weekend. Thank you, Eric, for just all you do for Mayberry. And thank all of you guys for being here with me. It is always fun to be here in Mayberry and talk about the Andy Griffith Show. We're getting back into the trail a little bit of trying to go through some of the actual episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. We're all the way up to episode number 14 at this point, The Horse Trader. Now, you guys know what that one was about, I'm pretty sure, but just as a quick one, that's when Andy, basically ends up conning a traveling antique dealer into buying a town's old cannon, with some kind of fictitious story that he makes up about how great the cannon was and all the wonderful things it had done in the past. And of course, then Opie follows his father's example and he cons his friends into, into getting, he trades for some roller skates, wow, it's a pretty good trade. Anyway, because Opie had already gotten ripped off because he traded his, anyway, you all know that stuff. Well, that's what it's all about. That is the episode. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also then going to do some more trivia. We got some trivia from Paul Mulik, and this week's topic is nicknames. So we'll be doing that as well. So I think you're going to really enjoy it. I hope you will anyway. So let's get into it. The Horse Trader. So in the Horse Trader, they have got, the whole town council is voting and they decide they're going to put up the old eyesore of a cannon that's kind of broken and stuff on the end. They're going to try to sell it. But one thing I want to mention before we do this, because I was watching this episode today and it's not really in my notes, but I realized as I was watching it, this is the episode. I don't know if this was done for kind of filler or if it was really written into the original script. It is the one, if you'll remember, when Barney is complaining about everything changing and he's against change, and they put a stamp machine in over at the post office and he doesn't like it because he doesn't like that. He's against change. He even wrote a letter to the Postmaster General about it. I didn't mail it though. Why not? Because I wouldn't buy a stamp from that machine. Yeah, that whole scene is at the beginning of this episode. So if you're ever trying to figure out when some of these things like that happen, that one happened in this episode. I have that problem a lot because there's things that happen during different episodes that are really funny, but they're not really related to the overall episode. Anyway, so there's just a little tidbit for you to remember. So let's go into a little bit of the plot here. So the town council decides to get rid of the old Civil War cannon. The mayor puts the responsibility to get rid of it on Andy and Barney. So they go out and go through every possible buyer that they can think of. Andy's going out everywhere. He even tries to get Barney to buy it and tells him how it would look so good out in front of his house. So he mentions that Barney has a house in this episode. Andy feels that his fortunes have turned when he's over at Walker's drugstore and this antique dealer comes in. And while there, he starts talking to Ellie about buying a container that she had there on the countertop. He'd like to buy it for $5, and she ends up selling it to him. So he thinks, I found somebody that can buy this cannon and get it out of our way. That's his goal, because he has been through everybody in town trying to sell this cannon to them, and basically everybody just shoot him away and tried to get rid of him throughout the whole town, up to and including Barney, who he tried to sell it to, as I said. So while they're there at the drugstore, that happens, and so he goes through that. So he forgets all about a talk he had just a little earlier with Opie, just a little earlier there in the drugstore, about how Opie was making up a story to be able to sell or to trade his licorice seeds for a pair of skates, because he had traded his cap pistol to get the licorice seeds. You remember? and Andy said, no, you can't do this, and honesty is the best policy, the golden rule, all that kind of stuff. So Andy, he convinces Opie, that honesty is the best policy. And Opie has that great line where he says, well, if honesty is such a great policy, how come I'm out of cap pistol? So that's when that happens. So anyway, right after that, Andy commences to do a little bit of what he calls horse trading with the antique dealer. And he makes some outrageous claims about the cannon, saying that it was Teddy Roosevelt's cannon and it had been on San Juan Hill. And, he goes through all this stuff. And Opie's there listening to all this. But the antique dealer's looking at it. And Andy says it fired the first shot in San Juan. No, not in San Juan, in Fort Sumter. And then he's all the way to the point of it was Teddy Roosevelt. See that right there? TR. That's Teddy Roosevelt during the Battle of San Juan Hill. So Andy goes through all of that stuff, and Opie's like, Paul, I never heard that. That's because you're talking too much, is what he tells him. Anyway, so Andy's trying to get both Barney, who is disgusted by this stuff, and Opie to be quiet so he can sell this cannon to this this fella that he's convincing to buy it. So neither one, he's like, do you want to buy this cannon? To Barney? No. Well, then be quiet and quit making faces. So the guy eventually kind of agrees to buy this cannon, even though it's not really what he said. And Andy sends Opie off saying, you go on because you don't know what you're talking about here. Okay, so not only did Andy, he does some, I think, underhanded tactics that upset Barney. It has a big impact on Opie, who takes what he has just learned from Andy, and he decides he's going to unload some of his own merchandise because, Ellie and Barney are both mad at Andy for doing this. And now Opie is unhappy as well, right? Because, Opie's not unhappy at that point, but Andy walks outside after Barney and Ellie are mad at him, and Opie comes skating up on a pair of brand new skates. And he's like, wait a minute, we had this whole conversation already. So anyway, that happens. So after Andy sells the cannon, basically, it was $175, by the way, that he did it. They won't even talk to him. But Opie rolls up on these skates, and he's even got enough money. He got the skates for the licorice seeds, and he has enough money extra to get some ice cream as well. So Andy questions Opie, and Opie says he's been doing some horse trading of his own, just like his pa's doing. So Andy basically grabs him and makes him come all the way back home and tells him to get those skates off, right? He does all that stuff. So after a short and pretty pathetic attempt to justify to Opie why there's a difference between his horse trading and Opie's horse trading, and he condemns Opie for it. Andy does what Andy always does. He comes to recognize the error of his ways. And so then, he's going to try to make it right. So he ends up, he learns from Opie. And doesn't he do that? He does that a lot during the show, doesn't he? And realizes he did something wrong. So he leaves there and goes back over to the drugstore where Barney has been drinking. He has been drinking. Now, he's drinking malts, he said. But he's drinking a bunch of them. But he comes in, and Ellie, if she won't sell him another one, he'll just go somewhere else, is what he tells her, which I've always loved that line. But the man comes in to pay Andy the $175 for the cannon, but Barney won't accept it. But then Andy comes in, and so he goes through, and Andy he basically, tries to explain to the man, well, I feel like I probably cheated you. I probably told you stuff I shouldn't have said, and they're not really true. He said, but I think I can sell it, is what the dealer's telling him. And so he basically reduces the price all the way from $175. Andy agrees that he'll take $20 for it, but, he just couldn't accept more. And so the man, the dealer, walks away happy. But at the end of the episode, Barney and Ellie are now happy with Andy. They realize that it was good. Of course, Barney's sick because he drank so many. He ought never drink, is what he says. And at the end of the episode, Ellie comes in over at the courthouse and gives Andy a letter. And sure enough, like a bad penny, the cannon is not actually gone after all, because the antique dealer, he ended up selling it and using Andy's stories to get the man who intended to give the town a plaque to buy the cannon and present it back to the city. And so that's what happens in the episode. That's a long synopsis of the episode. What a fun one to watch, and they just get bit in every way possible. So here's some odd facts known by few. Okay, the cannon that's hauled away in this episode is returned to the city, as I just mentioned in the epilogue. But it's seen in Mayberry in later episodes as well. So in the 5th season episode called The Cannon, you see this same cannon there. It's most likely reason being that Jack Ellison, he wrote both episodes, which I didn't tell you who wrote the episodes, did I? This episode is the 14th episode filmed. It was aired originally on January the 9th, 1961, and Jack Ellison and Charles Stewart are the writers, and Bob Sweeney was the director. So years later, in the 5th season, in the Cannon episode, Jack Ellison, he wrote that one too. So the Cannon reappeared. Actor Casey Adams. So Casey Adams is Ralph Mason, the antique dealer, was also known as Max Showalter. He played the part of Ward Cleaver. This is a little trivia for you. In the pilot episode of Leave It to Beaver. But then I guess he was replaced by Hugh Belmont. Something you may not know. Barney shows a weakness for drinking as he gets loaded on ice cream sodas at the drugstore. So we find out, he's got a problem. He just kept drinking them. So Ellie sells antiques dealer the copper pot that I mentioned that was sitting there. She sells it to him, saying basically, well, I don't have any use for it, even though actually it was full of soap. There was bars of soap displayed in this container, this copper pot. But she said she didn't have any use for it. Well, she had it full of things. She had to actually unload it before she could sell it to him. But anyway, I thought that's kind of different. She obviously had a use for it. She was using it, but she sold it to him. I guess if he's paying her $5, maybe that was good enough. She didn't need the whole thing. Perhaps maybe that's why. I don't know. But she sold it to him, and it was gone. All right. So let's see. Next up, we've got Opie. Here's a good question for you. So in this episode, Opie trades for a pair of skates, right? Well, just 3 episodes before was the episode, The Christmas Story with Ben Weaver. In that episode, Ben Weaver gave Opie a pair of skates, of roller skates, as a present, remember? So I guess he just wore them out, or it could be like the chairs that the Muggins had, or whichever family it was at the time, the Sam Muggins, the family, their chair that Ben Weaver sat in that broke. Maybe it's the same. I'm not sure, but maybe the skates that Weaver had given him just broke. Maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure, but it is kind of unusual that Opie traded for, maybe they were a better pair of skates. It could be. Anyway, it was only 3 episodes before that. Okay. The first, this is a Mayberry first, evidently. The first "You beat everything," that, is heard in this episode, and it's Barney saying it to Andy when Andy asks him if he wants to buy that town cannon. So that's the very first time you ever hear that. And it seems fairly often that it's said during the actual show itself. Let's see, the $175 that Andy was going to sell the cannon for in 2022 dollars, that would have been $1,761.90. So that's what he would have been getting in 2022. I don't know in 2024. We've had some inflation since then. So let's just say it was somewhere near $1,800 by now. It's like, that's pretty amazing. So that's what he was selling it for. Andy said the TR, I mentioned this earlier, and the cannon stands for Teddy Roosevelt, but Barney states that TR was carved into it by using a nail by a fella from there in Mayberry named Tracy Rupert. It wasn't, good and well. So Andy was making the product sound better. That's what he's doing. So at the town council meeting at the beginning of the show, Mayor Pike mentions the cannon is being replaced by a plaque that's being donated by former Mayberian Milford Phillips. Andy looks back. He doesn't look like he knows who he is when Milford's name is mentioned. So maybe Milford had left town possibly before Andy was old enough to really know the people in town. So when he was very young, perhaps. But he acts like he didn't really know who that was. Kind of interesting thing to see. It's assumed that Ralph Mason, the antique dealer that he sells the cannon to, in turn then sold the cannon to Milford Phillips, because in the epilogue, as I mentioned, he sends a telegram to the council saying he's reconsidered giving the plaque and is donating a Civil War cannon used in San Juan Hill, which is the same one Andy sold in the fabricated story. So I guess the town did come out ahead by $20 because they got to keep their cannon and they got $20 at the same time. So I guess it worked out. Another couple of little things that I think you might have noticed in the episode is at the beginning, when Andy first goes into the drugstore at Ellie's, in Ellie's drugstore, you can see in some of the shots, you can see Lucille Ball on the cover of a TV guide. You can see it. It's right there. Right as Andy comes in the doors, right there on a shelf on the wall, and you can see the cover of it in the magazine racks. That is from the Andy Griffith Show was obviously produced by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball's company, Desilu. So that's a TV guide with Lucy on the cover. There you go. So Andy tells Barney that he could put the cannon in front of his house. I mentioned that, but Barney's house is never seen during the series. And as a matter of fact, the only place we knew he lived was Mrs. Middlebright's boarding house, where he rented a room. We knew that, but we never actually saw his house. So it could be like, he didn't have a car. He kind of sometimes, is a little bit loose in continuity sometimes. And it's also suggested in one episode that he lived at 411 Elm Street. So unless that's Mrs. Middlebright's address, which maybe it could be, I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, just a little trivia for you there. And finally, the Walker's Drugstore has a payphone on the wall that you can see. And in that payphone is actually it has a dial on it. So, and Mayberry doesn't have a dial phone system. It is you pick up the phone, you ask for Sarah, and Sarah finds she calls the person and connects you to them. But there's a phone, if you watch the episode and look in the background of the Walker's Drugstore, you will see a pay phone that's actually got a dial on it. So something to watch for next time you're watching that episode, and see if you can check it out. So that's a little bit of trivia. Another couple of quotes that I like that are in this episode is the one where Opie said, "Is honesty, if honesty is such a good policy, how come I'm out of cap pistol?" I mentioned that one. And Andy actually said, "Well, that crack right there," talking about the cannon, came from a direct hit whilst Teddy Roosevelt was dragging her up San Juan Hill. So there you go. So in this episode, we had Andy Taylor, Andy Griffith, obviously, Opie, Ron Howard, Barney Fife, Don Knotts. Ellie Walker was Eleanor Donahue. And you had Mayor Pike, Dick Elliott. And Ralph Mason was played by Casey Adams. And then you had two council members. One was Pearl Cooper, played the character, and Speck O'Donnell was the other council member. Those were the characters we saw that were listed during the episode. So that's it, guys. That is our list of stuff from this episode. Now, so go back and watch the episode and see if you can find all these things and check them out. And just see if it's a little more fun to you to be watching for some of that stuff in the background. Okay. And now it's time for our trivia. So you guys ready? Let's play it. Pull out your trivia pencils and everything, and let's go. This week, our trivia, the topic is nicknames. Okay, nicknames. We want to thank Paul Mulik once again for providing these. So we've got 5 questions. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 nicknames given to characters on the Andy Griffith Show. For each nickname, I want you to tell me which character the nickname goes with and who gave them the nickname. Ooh, that may be hard. So, for example, Nutsy is a nickname for Gomer, and it was given to him by Barney during Citizen's Arrest. Nutsy here. You get it? So each is worth 2 points. There's only 5 questions, so you can get 2 points each. I guess you could get 1 point for knowing who the person is and 1 for knowing who gave them the nickname. Okay? So it's 5 questions worth 2 points each. So if you're ready, let's see how you're going to do. I got our chat room is in here and ready to play. So here we go. Question number 1. The nickname. Remember, you got to tell me who the nickname is for and who gave them the nickname. Number 1, nickname. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary. Whose nickname is that and who gave it to them? Okay, Bloody Mary. I think you can get this one. All right, Bloody Mary. So the 2 answers, 1 point for each one. Who is Bloody Mary? Okay, so for 1 point, the answer would be Aunt B. Okay, and who gave Aunt B that nickname? For 1 more point, answer's Otis. Aunt B, Bloody Mary. All right, so now you got the hang of it. That was question 1. Okay, this one's a little harder. It's a little harder than that one, but that was a good one. That was a good one. I'm not sure you're going to get all of these, but they're fun at least. Okay, the next nickname is Tweaky. Tweaky is the nickname. That's the nickname. Tweaky. So who is Tweaky and who gave Tweaky their nickname? Okay, Tweaky. And no, this is not Buck Rogers from the 80s. Tweaky. It's not that one. All right. Oh, folks in the chat room stepping right up. So how are you doing? Okay, Tweaky is the nickname. So whose nickname is Tweaky? The answer, it's Barney. All right, so for 1 more point, who gave Barney the nickname Tweaky? Okay, the answer, it was given to him by Ramona Wiley. Oh, come off it, Ramona. That one from Class Reunion, that episode. Okay, so it's Tweaky. Good job. Folks in the chat room are doing pretty good. I see several folks got this one. Good job, guys. All right, let's see. Next. This one I think is hard. I don't think I knew this one. I'll give you some hints on this one unless the chat room just blows up getting this right. Okay, here's the nickname. Old McDonald was the nickname. Whose nickname was that? And who was it given by? Okay, whose nickname was Old McDonald? And who is it given by? This is a hard one. I think this is really hard. Okay, so I can't give you who it's given by yet, but I think I'll give you who gave the nickname first. That way you'll have a chance to try to figure out who it was if there's any possible way. Oh, chat room. is getting this right. I see Kentucky Mike got it. Kentucky Mike got it. Oh, good job. All right, so here's the answers. Old MacDonald. I'm going to give you who gave the nickname first. So the nickname was given by Ron Bailey. This is from Bailey's Bad Boy, when he, Bill Bixby's character. So that's who the character was. Who did he give? Oh my goodness, Kentucky Mike got the full name in the chat room. The persons whose nickname it was, Old MacDonald's, was Fletch Dillbeck. Fletch, if you just said Fletch, I'm giving you that. But Dillbeck was his last name, Dillbeck, Dillbeck. So Old MacDonald was Fletch Dillbeck, and it was given to him by Ron Bailey in that episode. Good job in the chat room, Mike. Wow, impressive. That is pretty impressive. I don't think I could have got that. All right, number four. Here we go. Whew, the challenge is on, guys. Number 4. Beasto Maristo is the nickname. Beasto Maristo. Whose nickname is that? And who is it given by? Oh, gosh, this is a good one. I like this one, too. Oh, that's so good. All right, Beasto Maristo. Who was called that? Whose nickname was it? And who was doing the calling? Okay. All right. So this, I'll give you the episode. Just give you a little hint. It's from the Darling Baby. It's from the Darling Baby. I don't know if that helps at all. Folks in the chat room are definitely getting this one. So here they are. Beasto Maristo. The girl's name was Halcyon Loretto Winslow. Pretty name. Ugliest girl you ever saw in your life. So it was Halcyon Loretto Winslow, and it was given by Barney. Beasto Maristo. That cheese sandwich stuck right there for about 3 days. One of the greatest speeches. But he kept after me, driving the company car all shiny and new. But I held my ground. That whole speech by Barney, I love it. Similar thing happened to me a few years ago. Maybe I never told you about it. The girl's name was Halcyon Loretto Winslow. Pretty name. Ugliest girl you ever saw in your life. Her father got in her head that I should marry Halcyon. That's one of the greatest. All right, okay. That was number 4. Number 5, here's our last one, okay? Here's our last one. Number 5. The nickname is Old Mr. Nasty. Old Mr. Nasty. This is a hint. It's not Ben Weaver. Okay, so let's just take that one off the thing. So Old Mr. Nasty is the nickname. Who was called that and by whom? Okay, Old Mr. Nasty. All right, so think about that one. See, it's throwing it in that it's not Ben Weaver. That made it harder. Paul Mulik, thank you so much for putting these together. These are fun. I like this. This is really fun. All right, so Old Mr. Nasty. Who was called Old Mr. Nasty? I'll go ahead and give you another hint that the episode it's in is The Inspector, if that helps you. Oh, Cody got it. Cody, South Carolina Cody in our chat room got this right. So the person who is Old Mr. Nasty is Inspector Ralph Case. Inspector Case. And it was Andy who called him that, Old Mr. Nasty. Okay? That's it. So how did you do, guys? How did you do with that? That's pretty fun. I like those. Paul, good job, man. Those are really fun. That was kind of hard to do. It's not quite as hard as I thought it'd be. I really would have never gotten some of these. So if you didn't get it, don't feel bad. Hopefully it made you smile and think and laugh as we did get the answers and stuff. I want to, hey, Kentucky Mike in our chat room, 10 out of 10. So is Cody, South Carolina Cody, 10 out of 10 points. Congratulations, gentlemen. I'm sure there may have been some more in there. Some folks said they missed 2. So that's good too. Wow. I'm impressed. All right, guys, that is our trivia for the night and the day, whenever you're listening to this. And I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Paul, I really do appreciate you taking time to do this. These were very fun. I really enjoyed that. That was fun. I really thought it was going to be really hard. The Old McDonald one, I don't think I could have got. Tweaky, maybe. Mr. Nasty, I don't know if I'd have got that. Beasto Maristo and Bloody Mary, I would have gotten. But I don't know about the other three, so I'm not sure. So, cool. Very good. Very good. According to Cody in our chat room, he says, Mike and I stand before you humble men after a humble trivia contest from a humble home. That's what they're saying in the chat room. If you'd like to be a part of our chat room, you can go over to live.twochairsnowaiting.com on Monday nights. It's 8 p.m. Eastern time. And join us and be a part of our chat room. Those folks have a great time in there. There's 29 people in there right now in the main chat room. And then there are more people over on YouTube visiting over there as well. So they're doing pretty good. They got points over there as well and doing quotes and everything. So it's definitely the tears on your pillow bespeak the pain that is in your heart is what they're saying over there. But definitely something I encourage you to do, because this podcast is about trying to build up our community of Mayberry fans and just pull us all together. So I think you'd really have fun. If you haven't, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast. You can either subscribe to the audio version or the YouTube channel as well. Both are completely fine with me. Either one. I just want to make sure you see when new episodes are coming out of the Two Chairs No Waiting podcast, which it's pretty much every week. Not every week, but pretty much. Now we're at 792 episodes. Wow, 8 weeks from now, we'll be hitting 800. Oh, my goodness. Wow, 800 episodes. Good grief. Guys, it is always fun to spend time with you here in Mayberry. I'd love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8. Is that what it is? 888-684. Now I've gone blank because 8415. Or you can email me at floyd@imayberry.com, since I don't even know my own phone number. It seems like there are a few years you'd remember that. You can also drop by twochairsnowaiting.com and let me know there. So, folks, thanks for being here with me. If you were in Scottsburg, Indiana this past weekend, it was great to meet you. I met several people that watched and listened to the podcast. Thanks for being there. I even got a picture made with a Svengoolie fan who saw me last year on the Svengoolie as one of the squad members. So that was pretty cool. We took some pictures, and maybe we'll show up on Svengoolie later in the year as well. That's pretty awesome. So I just really do want to thank you for the support you give me here on the podcast, and just encourage you to gather with other fans of the Andy Griffith Show, because they're some of the salt of the earth. Have a great time with them. So, folks, until next time, have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you back here on Two Chairs. Good night, everybody.